Voices,
the things they said,
voices,
some from those dead, all the voices heard.
voices,
Things we say,
voices,
they're in your head, all the voices heard.
Hello, everyone. You have Kempa.
And Skylar.
And Shannon.
And we don't have the Flo because Flo was up very late doing some important work last night at City Hall. She was, she is the chair of the Measure U Commission, as we all know. And last night was a very important night. Would one of you like to give some context on first of all, listeners who don't know what Measure U is? It is what is it now? A full cent tax?
Yeah.
On purchases, and a use tax. So if you like buy a car in Folsom, and you live here, it's still, it goes to that. But it basically, half of that chunk had been set aside to go toward economic development in areas of the community that are more depressed and that really deserve a leg up, and back in the day when we had a big fight over passing this thing, a young woman came forward with a plan saying, hey, what if we had a Measure U committee that gave you oversight on how to use this money, just to make sure, just so the county could hold the city, so the community could hold the city accountable for how they spent, these extra dollars, right? And make sure that they go towards the lower income and communities of color that they were supposed to benefit, right?
Right.
And City Council agreed to that, but they refused to include that in the language on the ballot. And so, it passed, but the committee that they created didn't have any teeth. That's where we are today, right? Flo, our co-host, ended up not only on the committee, she was appointed onto it by Council Member Jay Chenier. She also became, soon after the committee started, the chair of the committee. Again, they give oversight on these dollars, right? That are supposed to go towards communities that could really help use a boost, right? What ended up happening?
Well, I mean, so part of this is that COVID kind of threw kind of everything, a lot of the city processes into a state of disarray. Of course, they're still able to staff and have a lot of most of their function. But one thing that they tried to do recently was say that due to COVID, they had to cancel the Measure U committee's meeting before they approved the budget. So they told the Measure U committee that they would reschedule their meeting for July, which would be after the budget has been passed, right? So basically,
they started canceling them as COVID was happening back in March,
right?
And they were like, yeah, okay. And then they canceled in April, and they were like, yeah, I mean, okay. But now you're starting city council meetings, and now you're starting planning, meetings. Why aren't you letting us do this oversight meeting? And basically after month 4, Flo just went to the mat with the city.
Well, once it became clear that the city just didn't want them to have their meeting before passing the budget, then Flo came out and was like, well, I'm going to have the meeting either way.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make it public. Blah, blah,
and if you
blah,
want to sue me over the Brown Act,
exactly.
right,
so she kind of forced their hand, so they put the meeting back on the books, and it happened last night.
For 5
and then
hours.
The mayor decided that he was going to come and do a little cameo.
Oh, which was precious.
So, he sure did.
I mean, so Flo has talked about this on the show, that these Measure U dollars, we have 5% of Measure U funding actually going.
Less than that. It's 4
Yeah.
point something.
Yeah, actually going
Um,
to where the city said it was going to go.
Right. To where when the city sold us the measure, they told us that this was what the money was for. Now less than 5% of it is actually going that way.
Right.
About half of it is going to the police.
Half of it
Yeah, it's like
going to
50.6%.
the organization that terrorizes the communities
Yep.
that these
Right.
dollars are supposed to support.
Right. The organization that has been rioting against the communities that have been asking them to please stop brutalizing us, we're going to give them half of this money that was meant for to uplift underserved neighborhoods economically. Right.
So as you can imagine, Flo is not happy. She's not happy that her meetings have been canceled month to month to month, and that they've tried to push this budget through without showing them this. I think there's a couple people on Flo's committee that really forced the city's hand to show them these dollars. And like I don't know. I'm glad they have it now so that Flo could humiliate Daryl in real time. But, you know, she was mad that they pushed off her meeting. She was not happy that they kept trying to hide where the Measure U dollars were actually going. And then once they finally had this meeting, you know, Daryl thought he would make this his own little stage.
Right.
And
It
that
didn't
go
work.
well for him. Yeah.
No, he tried. And like, to be fair, the people that like the other people on the committee did a pretty good job, but they kind of my take was that they kind of softballed him a little bit, all things considered. And then we get to Dr. Flo's exchange with the mayor, and
can we listen?
And the softballs stop.
Okay, let's just watch this, and you know, if you need to pause and just like cry tears of joy, we will not judge you for that.
All right, you guys ready to start it up?
Can't wait.
All right, let's do it.
Queue. And so I would like to start with, and because I want to get some clear answers to some questions that I have. So you mentioned earlier today that $70 million was invested in inclusive economic development and community programs and
Give
that
or
sort of
take.
thing.
Yes.
Give or take. Okay. And we'll take 70. How much of that was Measure U?
About 30, about 35. It's about half and half.
Okay, so $35 million.
About half and half.
Okay, and then how much of the entire city of Sacramento budget goes to the police department?
I think it was 170 something.
It's $170 million, and that's what percentage of our like budget?
She already knew.
So if I may, I don't know. I'm
Okay,
happy. I'm happy to do this line of inquiry.
Flo's like,
but I
I
would
know.
to please make a point,
Okay.
which is that when we did Measure U,
Uh-huh.
I promised this as much of the second half cent as possible. I did not promise to reform the entire police budget.
Okay.
And this is the Measure U committee.
Okay, so and then can CARES Act money go to existing city services?
Can
The CARES Act money go to existing city services? Like,
existing city services?
or yeah, existing city services?
Only to the limited extent that it can be used to reimburse any city service costs responding directly to COVID. But again, my whole advocacy has been to get as far away from that as possible and to use this.
Sure. I'm just trying to
people.
get some clear answers here.
Yes.
And then
Clear answers.
what fund do the lawsuits that we pay out for the police department come from? Because
Get
by
'em,
my
Flo.
estimation, it's
I
$3
love
million in the last 12 months, $2.4 million to the Clark family, and $550,000 to the protesters in East
Khalil hit him on
Sacramento.
the
And I
overtime
don't see that
too.
reflected anywhere in the budget.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out what line item does that come out of?
I need to get back to you on exactly what line item, but it's risk management, which
Okay.
is the general fund.
Gotcha. Okay. So out of the general fund, we're paying $3 million in bad behavior payments at least. But we are also then going to take Measure U money and spend the majority of it on the police.
No, the first half. That's
Yeah,
not fair
yeah.
because I'm sorry.
I gotta take my mask off.
That's the first
Ooh.
half, not
Mr.
the
Oh,
second.
mask off.
Flo's taking her mask off.
Fuck it, mask
I'm going
off.
to use this
You better
time now
back
to
the
lay
fuck
out
up,
what
Daryl.
seemed to be like a
Well,
series of
if you want to ask me
inconsistencies.
questions, I'm happy to stay. but
I did.
it's
I
late.
asked those questions. I got them. But
Okay.
what I'm saying is, you started this out saying that you joined you ran for city council. You ran for mayor because you wanted to make sure that we were investing in the communities that were important. And what I'm trying to figure out is, have we changed our police spending since you've been mayor? Because systems are perfectly designed to get the outcomes that they get. And the outcomes that we're having right now are 300 people spent time writing to you telling you no. If you were to poll your community, you would hear a lot of people right now saying, I don't want to be personally working for the state, getting a pay cut, while the police who have had to pay bad behavior payments are getting a raise. Like, part of the conversation that's disingenuous right now is that the police negotiated a pay raise that
Yes.
we are committing to pay, and we have not brought them back to the bargaining table, even though we are in an emergency, a state of emergency. That can't be understated. No, I gave you your time. Please give me mine to address.
Tell him,
No,
Flo.
Because that can't be understated, Mr.
Decorum,
It just simply
Daryl.
can't. Like, we are in, like, you're here as talking as if you're not part of the machine. Like, it's not like, gosh, I hope it could change. You are the person who can make it change. There are one of 9 people who sit on this dais, and all 9 of you are supposedly Democrats. And I'm trying to understand why we're fighting about how we're spending this money right now. Like, half of the, like you said, and words matter to me, you said we don't have Measure U money, but we do. We have $80 million scheduled to come in and Measure U money. And based on the campaign promises, $40 million, at least of that money, should be going. And if we were to go back and look, if only 30 or 35 million of that 70 was spent out of Measure U, that means you owed us $75 million out of the pot if it's 1.5 years, because that's what was promised to the voters. So to say, oh, most of it, to say, well, we negotiated immediately 80% out of the 100, it's like a series of compromises. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And it doesn't fly. Like, honestly, it doesn't fly. And the reason I asked you about the CARES Act money is because the reason we're not paying for police out of that is because you can't. Because you can't use it to infill police services specifically. So now we're going to try to make that the community reinvestment money, and that doesn't make sense, especially because a city has an obligation to do community investment. You are not a municipal military force. We're not. And so that's how we spend our money. Right? We're spending it like we're a municipal military force. And now I'm supposed to be impressed because we spent $70 million over the course of a year. The city budget is huge. $70 million is sad. The fact that we can take libraries and we can take parks and they barely show up when we put the whole pie chart of the city should make us sad. And so what I'm asking is, I'm not saying any of the things that you've done are trying to do to push progress are bad. I'm saying they're uninspired. I'm saying I want you to go home tonight, close your eyes, and imagine a world where we could actually do something different. Because it also doesn't feel right to me that you've stood here and talked about kids, but people in this community wanted to make sure there was money set aside for kids. And they put a measure on the ballot to be able to do that. And you along with the firefighters unit and the police union and the guy who was supposed to own Major League Soccer funded the opposition against it. And it was 2.5% of the budget, so that when we had an economic downturn like this, you wouldn't have to stand before us and say, I'm sorry, all the money's gone. We'd know at least 2.5%, no matter how big or small that was going to go for kids. When we're actively arguing against giving money to kids so that we can buy a Bearcat, which is a militarized
fucking
vehicle
hit 'em.
in
The bear
city of
claw.
Sacramento, we have lost our
Look at her.
Like,
She's so good.
you know, you wanted to stand up and
She's so
say,
good.
call in the National Guard and say, stop the protests. But I think we're Rome. And I think Rome is falling because
Oh.
this can't
Fuck
sustain
yeah.
for forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody said online, and I think it's true, you should be happy that all people are asking for is equity and not revenge. Because the revenge
Say
would be
that
bloody,
shit.
it would be terrible. Like, all people are asking for is that we do right with this money. And I'm sorry, I just, like, it's personal to me. And I said I wasn't going to be super yelly today, but it's personal to me. Because
Get yellier.
this money matters. This is people's real lives at stake. And if you care as much as you sit up on this dais and tell us you care, I need you to go back to the drawing board and do better than $5 million over 2 years, and do better than telling us that we can't afford participatory budgeting, and do better than a budget that you sit before us that's 41.7 out of $80 million going to the police. I'm asking that of you, that you do better than this, because this is not okay. And like, we have to call attention to it, because it continues to persist, and the status quo will give us the exact same outcomes we've always gotten. I'm sorry that the people don't have a well-paid union that's contributing to people's campaigns and making stuff happen.
Fucking
I'm sorry
get
that
'em.
we didn't negotiate a contract where we got
Bring him
raises
to the
even
floor.
when we cut up. I'm sorry about that, but that's the reality, and it's our job to protect against that. And what I see here is us rolling over and playing dead at a time when we should be standing up and fighting. So when you get on this dais tomorrow and have city council meeting, I need you to take my proposal and come up with something, a serious contender, because quite frankly, what I think you've given to us is complete, and it shouldn't even be considered. It's so ridiculous. Like, I am impressed with the restraint of everybody on this dais and on the call tonight, because we should be screaming and furious about this, because this is a travesty. And we can't dance around these numbers, Mr. Mayor. Like, that doesn't make sense. We have to get to the heart of it. How much were we spending on police and fire when you came into office, and how much are we spending now? And if it's not better, why are we here? Because now, in an economic downturn, we should be taking that money and getting us back to where we were. And instead, we're trying to use that money to do equity work. That's not what that money was designed for. It's not. It was designed to fill in the gaps of what we were losing that was important for our city. And I don't think what we were losing that's important shows up in violence. Like, we're going to fund violence at a time where people are dying in a pandemic? Mm-hmm. Please make it make sense.
Yeah, make it make
I
sense,
started
dude.
my remarks
I
by
Daryl's very
agreeing
sensitive
with
now.
some of your fundamental premise that the system is stacked.
I mean, moving forward, it's all a complete
That-
bullshit from the mayor.
Let's listen to
The
what he
system
says,
is
though.
stacked
It's wonderful.
towards those interests and those traditional services within our
It's
city
canned
of
too. He said the same
And
thing
this
like
budget
4
is
times
stacked
over the
Yeah.
years.
Excuse
against
me.
those interests.
He practiced.
Excuse
it.
me.
Allow me to.
Yes.
Excuse me, can I talk? Can I talk?
Excuse me.
Oh!
I gave you your time.
Oh!
I am,
Your papers aren't going to help you now,
I
Mr.
think, a
Mayor.
pretty strong mayor in a
Oh,
Drawings of
pretty
crows.
diluted system of power that enables me, yes, to make real change, to try to change the culture of city government.
okay.
try
This
to
fucking
change the
Bernie
spending
Sanders angle. The
priorities.
system is rigged.
That's
I
exactly
see it.
what
Yeah.
I have endeavored to do. Now, can I do more? Of course I can. Am I done?
Will I?
Of course I am
No.
not.
No.
Of course I won't.
Of course I won't.
If you look at, you asked me
You love to see
go
it.
to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow and sit in that seat and think about what you had to say, I will do that.
Oh,
But I
Sick.
would also remind you that I went to bed last night and woke up this morning and proposed the most
at
fundamental
4:30 a.m. because
redistribution of these resources that is actually
Because there
been
are
put
heroes in this
forward by an
city.
elected official in this city. For I said
Why
that
does
I
he say
intend
for
to put
so often?
into binding resolution a policy in the city of Sacramento that will forever shift police resources to a unit that will more effectively and compassionately respond to 911 calls involving
He's
people
such
with mental
a
illness,
shit.
the homeless, and a
No.
whole
He's
host of
such a
other
This is
things,
such trash.
where the police are the
Oh.
first and last resort for all those calls. All right?
you are a dumpster
People
fire,
of this
sir.
city reelected me back in March with almost 80% of the vote. And I appreciate your point of view, and I certainly appreciate your passion. We need you.
Oh, go fuck yourself.
How
But-
condescending
Right?
is this shitbag?
I'm happy to
Yeah,
continue
I mean,
to
he's
have this
right. We do need
conversation
her. We don't need you,
because
though.
Don't
you
need you,
fucking
man.
I'm as much
asshole.
of an idealist as you are.
No, you're
I'm
You
as
are
much of
not.
Eat
Get us a
shit.
better budget.
Go back to the
Excuse me.
Senate.
Please get us a better budget.
Excuse me. Let me finish.
Excuse
please.
me.
I have a different job than you do.
I wish she would have caught at him.
I take your challenge to do better. I take your challenge to do better. I will endeavor to do so. Thank you. Thank you for.
He
having
wanted
me.
to mic drop and walk
There were a
away.
few other folks on
okay.
the.
Yeah.
Then
I was
will
like,
say-
Nope.
Member Murakami.
Should we pause it now?
Okay, yeah, I think the point has been made.
Oh my god, it's
It's incredible.
like you. No.
I will tell you this. So this is like what was that 3 hours and 45 minutes into that meeting? So we started
Yeah.
watching this at 6. This didn't happen until like almost 10. Like at this point I was like
Yeah.
laying down on my couch like wishing I was dead on like hour 3 of listening to this fucking budget meeting.
You were
And then-
texting us about how bored you were like an hour in.
And then like fucking like the rest of this shit was pretty dry, to be fair. And like I
Yeah,
said, like the other
totally.
people on the committee, like were like it's not that they were like ineffectual or lame, but none of them came with even 1% of the fire that Flo came with.
Right.
And frankly, I wish they had. Like, I think there are
Oh yeah,
Totally.
she's
up there
100%
that are
justified.
angry.
Yes. And she, I
Um,
mean, she's the only, I mean, she is actually representing the people of this city in a way that nobody else in that room is doing it, because there is that anger and there is that fire with a lot of us. And the
Yeah.
mayor needs to fucking hear that shit, you know?
Yeah, she's kind of fearless, and it's refreshing to see.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it.
It's amazing to see like any government process happening and on any level where like somebody is actually advocating for the best interest of the community in like an actual real way without any ulterior motives. And I think that's what's so exciting about watching something like that exchange. Is we're like, I mean, you know, obviously Flo is like not on city council, not the mayor or anything like that, but she is a part of the body, and she's just absolutely kicking ass,
Yeah.
you know?
I think so. Something that maybe will help, well, that definitely helped me, and maybe will help our listeners understand like where that fucking rage comes from, is that, you know, so Measure U was passed or voted, extended, whatever,
Yeah.
in November of 2018, right? So, and it added that half-cent tax. Now when you look at the budget from, if you just, so Flo, bless her nerdiness, created these charts that break down where the money has gone for Measure U, or how it's been allocated. And when you look at the amount of money that has gone to police over and over and over again, it's, if not at 50%, like just under, since this measure was passed. And the council was proposing that just over 50% would go to the 2021 budget, right? And the only items that are being funded in the proposed budget would be police, fire, youth programs at significantly less, economic development at significantly less, and then miscellaneous. And Flo's counter proposal completely pulls the police out of that. And she says, let's, you know, fire, they can have a little bit, and youth programs, youth parks, they can have a little bit, but let's put the lion's share of the money into economic development. Let's add homelessness, and let's add affordable housing, two things that have not been represented in the budget
Right.
proposals. And let's really use the money for what it's intended to be used for. And the mayor listens to her, looks at, you know, the documents that she has presented, she served him hard and he has what he wanted from her. Like when he came, his comments were like, yeah, but I want to use $5 million to make sure that police don't respond to non-criminal activity.
Right.
He wants her to pat him on the back for this
Right.
idea that, like, let's not fucking forget that the bullshit ideas that the mayor has now are the things that advocates were asking for a decade ago.
Well,
right?
yeah, he's covering his ass because he knows his social capital is fucked.
Right.
He had, like, from a comms perspective, as a comms person, you know, he had a crisis comms team on this all weekend. And they're like, all right, we're going to pull out a plan for you that makes you look like the good guy come Monday.
Can you guys outline that plan real quick? Because there's two pieces
It's
of
two
it that I'm
pieces,
aware
yeah.
of. Right? And yeah.
Well, the one I remember is the $5 million towards non-police emergency response for non-criminal activity emergencies.
Right.
The other one was, what was the other one?
The other one,
Inspector General to report out. Yeah, exactly.
like toothless.
For those
police
of you who
oversight
are
that
listening, I
is
just
a
made
fairy
a jack
tale.
off motion.
Yeah.
It's his like bullshit oversight committee. And let's not forget what he actually thinks of oversight committees, because look what happened with the Measure U Advisory Committee.
Right.
Like, you don't give a shit about oversight, motherfucker.
And we've discussed this about cops forever, right, on this show. It's like we're past the time of trying to reform. There's no reforming.
And the
system is working as it was designed.
And we've covered shit on this show like already where like in California now it's illegal to do like the carotid choke or whatever. Like they made chokeholds illegal. That doesn't fucking mean anything if you aren't willing to fucking prosecute cops who break the law. If there's no punishment for breaking the law for the cops and the cops know that, then fucking do whatever you want. All of it's meaningless. Like if these guys have a fucking if these guys just have free reign to do whatever the fuck they want, then that's absolutely meaningless. And fucking people can see that. Like that's what drives me fucking nuts about the goddamn Democrats.
Right.
Everybody can see through this shit.
It's
easy.
Our Attorney General Becerra, right? He says this carotid thing, and now it's illegal to do carotid chokes. First of all, fucking of course, like what the fuck? It should have been forever, right? Second of all, as you were saying, Sky, if like him doing that, it doesn't mean shit. I guarantee some fucking cop in California is going to do it. And after that cop does it,
that probably happened today in California.
Yeah, totally.
And that cop is going to go on paid leave.
Right.
And then
if they're that's only if somebody fucking is there with Facebook Live on.
Right.
If they're not, then they don't even get that.
No, then they go home and just like go to sleep and
beat up their wife and have 18 beers and go to sleep or whatever the fuck the cops do.
Cops, man.
That is
I mean, but that's like, so basically they'll get away with the carotid choke, right?
Yeah.
Like, and like, we don't trust you. We don't, and like, and again, Sky, you're exactly right. These are all Democrats. We don't trust them.
No, and that's why when guys like Daryl are like, I'm going to put together an independent commission to oversee the cops. It's like, no, you fucking aren't.
Right.
Dude,
Yeah,
we
bullshit.
can see how fucking whipped you are by the cops. You're not going to do shit. And it's fucking obvious, Daryl. All of us can see it.
We've said it before on the show, but I'm astounded at his lack of spine on stuff like this.
Truly.
I mean, I'm not. I've been fucking watching this guy do this shit for like hella days. It's like, of course, this is what he's going to do. Like,
yeah, I think it's not like,
This is me being the sweet summer child of the show.
Yeah, I think it's not surprising at all because he is. I mean, we saw again and again, we see this like oversensitive, spineless, piece of shit, dumpster fire, fucking master of crows, stand up there and like he really like gets in his feelings about, how he's really been listening and
I'm an
you know,
idealist too.
yeah,
I'm just as
listen.
passionate about this as you are.
I really want to fix this too, Flo.
So full of shit.
And you
So
don't
full of
ever
shit.
see anything. It's all like he only speaks in platitudes. He never produces any sort of action. It's all just like, let me just say this thing because here's the thing, he thinks we're all fucking stupid. He thinks that he gets up there and he says this bullshit,
And
like,
people buy it.
and everyone's like, tight.
Right.
Daryl.
Because it's worked forever, but we
Right.
live in a different fucking universe right now. And
Right,
this
people are
doesn't work
goddamn
anymore.
tired of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anymore. Standing up and saying one thing and then doing the exact fuck it, not even doing the exact opposite, doing absolutely nothing. Like you say you're gonna. He didn't fucking go home and think for a goddamn moment about what
No.
Flo said. Not for a minute.
To be fair, he was woken up at like
He went home and
4:30
karate
a.m.
choked his
that
dog.
day. He
And-
did. Probably went home and karate choked himself.
He grabbed
would've
some
fucking
crows
done.
and karate choked some crows. And
I know where
He
this joke
also-
is going, so let's just stop it there.
Speaking,
yeah, it would have. That's good. That's a good call.
The Carradine choke. Another thing that, like, speaking of platitudes, he came out. So his first thing when he was like introduced, like, here's the mayor, thanks for meeting us and having this meeting with us, mayor. He comes out and gives like a 20-minute oral history of like his entire political career.
What?
That was like
It was
what a
fucking
little
bananas.
shit.
I was like, he was like, before we get started with this, I would just like to say, back in 1963 or whatever, and just fucking starts from the beginning. And it was like, what is happening?
Can we also, like,
He walked uphill 5 miles both ways to pass legislation for
shoeless in the middle of winter? That one time it snowed. Just like he also said,
what a
I'm gonna take
self-righteous
10 minutes.
shit.
I'm gonna take 5-10 minutes, maybe a few more, and then fucking half an hour later, after we hear all about his bullshit, time in the Senate and how he's made a lot of changes in Sacramento and now he's a good mayor. I believe I'm a good mayor and the majority voted for me. Who the fuck else were they gonna vote for, asshole? Anyway.
Yeah, dude, you ran unopposed.
Right,
He's like, I got 80% of the vote. It's like, nobody ran against you. What are you bragging about?
Well, he went against Angelique Ashby.
Which was, she would have been no better.
She would have been horrible.
She loves the police. She loves them.
She is like the Republican on that dais.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I hate Democrats, but I despise Republicans. But
that should be clear. I said this on the last show. We spend a lot of time hating on Democrats. Right. That's because we actually expect the Democrats to sometimes do good things.
To be human fucking beings.
Right. We don't expect the Republicans to do that, so we don't waste time talking about them because I don't think of them as being redeemable or worth talking about.
Yeah, I talked to like family about this and I'm just like, oh yeah, the furthest right I'll engage is like a Hillary Democrat.
Right.
And like, most of my family just like laughs at me and I'm like, that's true. Like,
but that's actually
there's no like ideology to the right of that like matters. Like it doesn't
full on evil at that.
It's just like chaotic evil cartoon villain shit. So I'm not gonna holler at that because I can't, that's so far to the right, I can't even be mad about it. I can be mad about people who run as Democrats who are like, I'm a man of the people, traditionally the party of the working class, and then completely just turn around and betray everybody that they suckered into voting for them on those premises, right? And Daryl Steinberg is one of those Democrats. That's where that animus comes from.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He is precisely what we, Skylar and I at least identify as leftists. I don't know about Flo or Shannon, but like he is what we're talking about when we talk about Democrats who are like, I'm progressive and I am, I'm fighting for the people. And you look at them, you give them more than like a glance and you see that is obviously not the fucking case.
Right.
Daryl is not working for any of us.
I mean, here's another thing too, and this isn't. I don't mean this as like an "I told you so," but when Measure U was on the ballot, and we were getting ready to vote for it or not, I was against it, and I was trying to talk people out of voting for it on the grounds that because it was basically presented as like, hey, we're going to have this tax, and we'll spend it in ways that are pretty nebulous and not specific at all, was the way that it was presented. Just kind of like, oh yeah, we'll have this money to spend for the city in good ways. It was pretty nondescript. And because of that, I was like, dude, I'm not giving this mayor and this city council like a fucking blank check that I don't have to give them. Like, yeah, tell me where the money's going and we can talk. But I think the language, I don't think that, I think that people believed what was written on the thing, right? That it would go to like things that would improve communities that needed the money, and it got through on that. And now we are. I will say, dealing
Flo
with it, you know?
and them, you know, Flo and her, like Flo is a part of this like cohort. I don't think they trusted city council, which is why they came to city council. Our friend Sedalia King came to city council and said, I think you should write this committee concept into this measure, right? And, you know, I remember when she presented it, like city council, all the members looked at her very like smiling and condescending a little bit. And they're like, yeah. And then of course, Angelique is like, oh, well, we can't fit that into the writing right now. And like, so like, we don't have time to change the verbiage of the measure. And so basically what that meant is that whatever committee came out of this wouldn't have teeth. Or at the time, we had to just hope that the city council would give this committee teeth, which of course they didn't. Mm-hmm. And so we have what we have today. I will say I am immensely, like Flo and I fairly publicly landed on different sides of this one on Measure U, but I'm just immensely impressed with her for really following through on this and for making Daryl Steinberg face his fucking like skeletons every time he looked up at that dais last night, right? And I mean, at the end of the watching that, I was almost like, if anyone runs against him, like she kind of laid out the groundwork for every fucking thing he does wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he just looks like he wants the ground to open up and swallow him up. You know, like he doesn't want to be there because he can't answer for any of that shit. And he typically doesn't have to stand there and listen to someone do this like detailed outline of why what he's doing is bullshit, but he's got to do it there, you know?
Right.
I tweeted last night, I think he's afraid of her.
100%. I would be.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and you can tell that, and she gave him a few, like toward the end of her, you know, telling him that he's a terrible leader and listing the reasons why. There were a few moments of pause where she was like, do you want to say, and do you want to say something? And he like didn't say anything. So she just kept at him. I think it was 3 times where she paused a bit and there was nothing. I wish there was a camera on his face because I would have loved to see like the piss trickle down his leg and like his like the sweat beads and just like has like building the armpit sweat,
the flop sweat.
Just like it would have been. I love to think about it, and I'm sorry I didn't get to see it. We'll have to ask Flo what his face looked like while she was serving him with fire.
Yeah. There were another couple of interesting things that came out of it last night that didn't show on that clip. For one is when Flo informs him that the city is within its full legal rights to renegotiate the contracts with the police unions, to maybe due to COVID, like share some of the cuts with, you know, the police, and maybe we don't add the normal amount of money that we add, this year to their budget or whatever. And Daryl just flatly is like, I wouldn't count on that happening.
Yeah,
Like,
so there's
he just is like, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't plan on that.
This man is digging his own grave right now.
Truly.
It's amazing.
Well, and like, I'm so glad that Flo brought that up, that there is government code that allows for us to renegotiate the union contract in an emergency situation, and called him out on it and gave him the opportunity to just straight up say, I'm not doing it. Like,
Right.
And that moment, coupled with is it Khalil Ferguson, the youth rep, who is like amazing at the beginning.
Incredible. Yeah.
I was just like jaw dropped at his ability to crunch those numbers.
We'll have him on the show. I actually got coffee with him back before all of this shit went down, and we'll have him on.
That'd be dope. But pointing out that there is an opportunity to renegotiate the contract with the union, and that the police department is 348% over their overtime budget, which...
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah. Can we do that again?
348%.
And here's the thing. Why do you think they're that far over their overtime budget?
These fucking monsters.
Civil unrest, Skylar.
Is it because the entire fucking
funds.
country has mobilized against police brutality? And the only way that they can think to do that is to go into like 400% of their fucking overtime budget? Dude, you guys can't. You guys can't.
One more time.
You don't get fucking paid for that shit.
It's so 348% over their overtime budget.
That's not even to mention the fucking $25 million it costs the city to bring the National Guard in.
We're living in. Oh.
Well, let's also match that up against the 264% that they were over the previous year. So like they can't get anywhere near staying on budget.
And our city council is just like a bunch of fucking dopes up there.
Right. And they're like, you know what? That sounds
sucking on lollipops.
Just acting like there's nothing they can do about it.
Strong men to keep us safe from the baddies.
Acting like none of them have any fucking hand in any of it. There's nothing we can do, you know?
We live in a fucking dystopia.
Yeah.
This is, and how like they're gonna, it's how they will legitimize or validate the $41.7 million that the council proposed, up from 36.3 that the council approved for fiscal year 1920. Like they just like can't live without giving cops a little bit more money for
stop
that
giving
overtime.
these fucking morons money. Stop it.
So another number that came up in a part of this that we didn't air on the show is, I can't remember who's talking to him, but he says something to the effect of like, do I wish that 80% of our of the general fund didn't go to what do they like, protective services? Is
Public
that
safety?
Public
80%
safety
goes to public safety.
80% of our almost $1 billion general fund goes to public safety, which to be fair is the cops and the fire department. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but my understanding is that the cops are the lion's share of that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there
is bloated.
Yes, there is some bloat. There's some fucking fat to trim out of the fire too. Like Flo was saying,
that is a losing battle. They have all the social capital in the world.
One thing at a time. Like when the fire department starts like shooting people in the face with rubber bullets and
then
like choking people out, then maybe we can start thinking about that.
Right.
But I mean, food for thought. Like Flo was saying last episode, like building codes are different now. Like we've updated the way that we like run our electrical systems. Like there just isn't as many houses burning down. There aren't as many fire emergencies as there were. I mean, obviously we're in California, like wildfires are a problem, so you have to account for that.
Sure.
But having like an on-call, like 24/7 staff of firefighters to stop burning buildings is maybe The call for it is not where it was 20 years ago, and that's good. You know. But anyway, yeah, back to the fucking cops. 80% of almost $1 billion.
It's bananas.
It tells you everything you need to know.
And we
about
act
our
like those
priorities.
cuts are completely alien. We can't do anything about it. But people don't say shit about cuts to education. People don't say shit to
Right.
cuts about like the parks. People don't say shit about cuts to any number of fucking social services. But
How
for some reason,
stone-faced Daryl looks when he refuses to cut. Not only refuses to cut their funding, but like stone-faced, I am adding their funding and I'm doing it through Measure U dollars. Like what? Like what an audacious shit, man.
well, and with this attitude of like, look, I wish there was something I can do about this, but there isn't. It's like, dude, there is something you can do about it. You fucking asshole. You're the mayor of the goddamn city.
Yeah.
You could at least
Fire
act
Howard
like you want to
Stern.
do something about it. Like
Fire
even just
Stern.
advocate for it.
Fire your fucking like half of your fucking police staff and hire some
Right.
fucking social workers.
Right. Yeah, $5 million to fucking spend on hiring people to run like non-emergency 911 calls is a
Yeah.
fucking insult.
And
Fuck that.
also, let's not forget that when he says that he's allocating $5 million to this project, program, whatever the fuck word he used, he's like, I don't know where I'm gonna find it, but I'm gonna find it. Motherfucker, you put a proposed $41.7 million into the police budget. I have a fucking idea where you can find $5 million.
Out of Measure U, which let's
just
fucking,
Measure U, right? Just
let's be
Measure
clear,
U.
that wasn't supposed to be for police at all. 0% of that was supposed to be going to the police.
Yeah. It's gonna be hard.
It's going to be fucking tough,
I'll find it.
especially if you're a spineless piece of shit who's
That's when
just
it's the
completely
toughest, is when
beholden
you're
to
a
the fucking
spineless
cops.
piece of shit. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's true.
Jesus Christ. But I mean, hey, again, I know we've been like, we and a lot of people who watched it last night are like gushing about Flo, but it
Oh my
cannot
God.
be overstated, dude. Like,
I
honestly,
teared up.
yeah.
Same.
How lucky are we, like just like the three of us on this show to like get to like do a show with her?
Yeah.
But like, how lucky are we as citizens of Sacramento that we have somebody like Flo here who will fucking stand up there and say that shit in the way that it needs to be said? Like this
And
city owes fucking Flo a debt of gratitude for what she did last night. It was amazing.
I think it cannot be said enough that after everything that Flo said last night, people, those of us who feel the same way, or even a sliver of that, like we need to put our energy behind the work that she's doing on the Measure U Commission, or advisory commission, whatever the hell it's called. Really put our energy behind her and say over and over and over again publicly that we support her work and do what we can. Listen to if she's posting calls to action, we've got to jump on those quickly, and just bring that support and like keep bringing that fire that she brought last night. I mean, I thought about divorcing my spouse and running to
I'd
Flo.
marry Nate if you divorced him, so I'm okay.
Toreen, your wife is my one true love.
I'd marry
Yeah,
Tareen
I
if
got
you
bad
divorced
news for you as well, Tareen. Your wife is also my one true love.
Maybe we can make this work.
him. Hey, it's California, yeah.
I never thought I'd be into an open marriage, but after last night.
I also want to mention our friend of the show, Jane Manty, who was on recently, mentioned that we need to protect Flo at all costs.
Yeah.
Because they're going to come for her. The neolibs, obviously the right-wing folks, but really we got to worry about the neolibs in a place like California. And be ready to be on the offense, because don't let anybody get, it's just we have to defend Flo at all costs effectively.
Yeah, agree. I don't know what Sacramento did, what one good thing Sacramento did to deserve her mind, but
No, I think
whatever
like
it is,
she
I'm
fucking
glad.
hates it when we like, kind of like quote unquote joke. I'm using quotes on joke
She
because
will
it's not
already
entirely a
have
joke.
ended, like, paused this episode, like I can't listen to it.
Yeah,
so
I know. She totally will
like
have.
she's not listening.
But like seriously, when she does decide to go in to, go run for city council or some kind of office, like we're coming up so hard on
Yeah.
that. That is the
I'm-
best case scenario.
I've already cafe pressed my Flow 2024 shirt,
Hell yeah.
so
I've
cafe
told her
press
before,
just
and
aged me.
I'll say it to the show now after last night's fucking performance. She is a once in a generation person.
Truly,
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Well, speaking something that's incredible. Another flawless
killed
segue.
the segues
Man,
last week.
I just got these coming out.
Last episode, they were so good.
Oh my
god. Speaking of budgets that aren't going so great.
Shit.
That's really good.
All right. I am a furloughed worker, and I've been using my time, which I have a lot of these days, to read and listen to great voices content. But like I was, I've never said this before, but if I had, I might have said something to the effect of like, I'm tired of just Googling, Voices River City podcast or Voices River City articles. Is there some sort of a consolidated place online where I can just find this great content without having to search for it through Google?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I love how affirming you are every time.
There is a home for all voices content. It's voicesrivercity.com. We've been doing this for 3 years. I say this every show, but we've done a few iterations of it. Currently, we are in mostly podcast form, but we've done a lot of really interesting kind of alt-weekly-ish, Gawker-ish stuff over the years. So just do a deep dive on our site and see what you can find. It's kind of a cool place. We plan to dive more into that perhaps in the future, if inshallah. We are on Twitter at Voices River City, Facebook Voices River City. We are on Instagram at Voices River City, and Patreon. I hope you're not going to the bar. I know the bar's open this weekend, but I hope you're not going to them yet, because we should be a little more careful. But
go to the outdoor ones.
Go to the outdoor ones. Literally, honestly, just go. I'll sit with you in a park 8 feet away, and we'll just have a beer together.
Love that.
But and I will pay for your beer through the $5 a month that you contribute to us.
Yes, it's just like buying a drink, basically.
Right.
Win-win.
So you can contribute
Circle.
to our Patreon, patreon.com/voicesrivercity.
Dave, real quick, just so our listeners know, how much of the Voices budget goes to support police officers?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. We give I think it's like 4 quarters a month that we throw at cops' foreheads.
Yeah. Sometimes there's pennies and nickels in there. I sometimes just shotgun blast them out the window when I'm driving by.
But give or take, only about $1 of our money goes to cops, and it's going to try to hurt them physically. So I think
right.
Yeah,
I think that's good.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Yeah.
Full transparency.
So that's I guess those are all of the things. I'm on Twitter. I'm at Kempa.
I'm at Guillotine for You. That's Guillotine, the number 4 YOU.
I'm at Shan N.D. Stevens.
And
Yeah.
sorry.
Well,
No.
Flo is at
Our
Flojean.
our once in a generation co-host is at Flojaune, Flojaune.
Yas.
I guess that's it. This is an afternoon show, listeners, and it's a very weird dynamic. I'm the only one drinking, and that's just because I got off a flight, and I'm like, well, you can drink whenever when you're doing that.
I mean, we're in quarantine or what?
Yeah, it's
like
quarantine.
mostly. You can do
Yeah.
whatever the fuck you want,
That's
whenever
true.
you want.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
as soon as we stop this, I'm about to nap with my pit bull.
Sick.
That's a great idea.
I can't
That's a
wait.
great idea.
All right. Well, we'll let you do that then. Everybody out there, thank you for listening. Please stay safe.
Stay sane.
What
Stay
does Flo
healthy.
say? Sorry.
Now
Stay
you
away
go,
from
Dave.
me.
There it is.
There you go.
We're gonna
One
nail
of
it,
these
folks.
weeks.
One of
Am I
these
the one
weeks
that
we're
always
gonna nail
fucks
it.
that up?
Yes,
I'm
you are.
Yeah.
100%.
But you definitely, like, for a few weeks, you were on it.
I was
Stay
hitting
away
it for a
from me.
while there.
Yeah, it's all right. You just got off a plane and you're
Yeah, it's
already
cool.
into a beer. We'll let you off the hook.
Yeah,
No
that's
big.
No big. All right, guys. Flow 2024. We'll see you guys later.
Ooh, say that. Bye.
Bye.
She's gonna hate this episode.
I love
So we're
it.
just like, Flow. Flow's great. We love Flow.
Flow
Flow's
2020.
amazing.